Meanwhile, in the northernmost mountains of Rokugan. Hello everyone, this is Kestrel Raptorial. So begins the first core fiction story of the Dragon Clan. I play Dragon Clan, as I do so love the dual-wielding style, the Niten, although instead of a katana and wakizashi daisho, I use a double-bladed sword. The title of the third story in the core set fiction for Legend of the Five Rings is The Rising Wave, written by Marie Brennan. And it follows Mirumoto Masashige as he leads a company of Dragon Clan Bushi from the mountains. The winter has been unusually harsh, the snow is deep, and the blizzard bites hard. When Masashige realizes that he almost trampled a child, he is horrified, even though his horse has been injured beyond saving. The Dragon Clan is, much like Japan today in real life, not having nearly enough children. So the dragon are doing something interesting. Sometime after the Kitsuki family first noticed the dragon dwindling in population, we're not sure how long ago, the story describes the decline as having first taken hold about a century before, and it has now become so bad that they are taking in peasant children with talent and initiating them into the ranks of the samurai class, training them as bushi warriors and shugenja, or the elemental spellcasters of this universe. For a culture very set in its hierarchy, as Rokugan is, this is desperate indeed. Now, it's not clear if this dwindling is taking place among the nobility alone, or if all the people within the dragon territories are experiencing this. My guess from the story would be it's all of them, but seeing as the samurai cast is so eager to throw away their lives for displays of honor and glory in the court and in battle, they are going to be feeling it first and noticing it first, although the dragon would be one of the last of the great clans I would initially guess to be suffering first, as they are the clan in the mountains withdrawing the most from the events of the empire, though that carries with it its own valid criticisms. In any case, the girl is unheard, and it is nice to see a culture that in desperate times actually cares for its children rather than imprisons them or ruins their future. Rokugani society does appear to be, from this and other fictions I've read years before, genuinely protective of their children, even though the adults are just as stubborn and foolish and war-happy as those of whatever the Game of Thrones world is called. Westeros is just one continent. So Masashige and his followers continue on their way and reach Tall Pine Village. On the next page, you can see an illustration of the Mountains Anvil Castle, which is a Dragon Clan stronghold in the trading card game. In fact, the first Dragon stronghold to be released in the relaunched TCG. It's a beautiful castle, but to someone with some knowledge in geology, it's a disaster waiting for the rock to erode just enough, and clearly that is an erosion-happy environment. There's likely a river at the base of that forested valley. The wind must be unbelievably strong. Snow and ice. If you're aware of what happens when there's seasonal freezing and thawing of the water, it's not good news for even the slightest crack in rock. Now, as it turns out, the winter has been so harsh that all of the villagers have left to eat is coarse grains boiled with root. No rice left. At first, it kind of reminds me of the first episode of The Story of Saiyankoku, which I've actually really taken a liking to this year, that anime. But in the first episode, which takes place a few years after a famine in that world as well. Two of the main characters, Shure and Seiron, talk about having to settle for barley instead of rice because they can't get enough to. They can't make enough money to raise enough to eat.
And here I was thinking we'd be able to buy rice this month, but it'll be barley again. That line down the middle of it, that line that distinguishes it from rice. No doubt this one too is going to taunt me and laugh at me saying, I'm not rice. Oh, I can't believe it, I can't believe it.
Although this rice is gone because vermin got into their grain stores, and what they did not eat was left fat. This is the reason why, thousands of years ago, people started to take a liking to cats that would roam around the villages. They came to hunt the rodents that would invade the food stores, and discovered that in letting the people come near them, and eventually domesticate and adopt them as pets, they got reliable food sources, both from humans feeding them, and from the rodents they would hunt, as well as warmth and relative safety in human dwellings. And the humans got companionship from the kitties and natural pest control. In fact, one of the reasons that the Black Death was so devastating in Europe during the Middle Ages is, among other reasons, because of the belief at the time that cats were witches' familiars, and so they got rid of the cats. Well, guess what that did? Left the door wide open for terrible rat infestations, which the plague traveled and thrived on. I know that's a tangent to go on, but it's an important lesson. Later that night, Masashige hears the mantra of a following called the Perfect Land Sect, chanted within the very village he and his troops are staying in. 3 words that translated mean devotion to the little teacher. This teacher they speak of is Shinsei, who preaches that they need only trust in and listen to him to be released from the cycle of rebirth. Now, this cycle of rebirth, I believe, was referred to as the karmic circle, and that has several different versions in a number of Asian mythologies. We will see which one this most resembles. Again, the Legend of the Five Rings takes inspiration from mostly feudal Japan, but also a number of other mythologies from East Asia. So we will see. 3 simple words, and Shinsei would save them. It is a teaching that appeals to peasants who lack the time and education to devote themselves to learning the strict and very long-term disciplines of the Brotherhood of Shinsei, a faith allowed by the Emerald Empire. This sect has been expanding and growing increasingly bold, and may at some point rebel against the samurai caste. And this is one of the prices of having an extremely hierarchical society. Those at the bottom of the pecking order live under such restriction, even though they are essential to the empire's existence, that it is almost inevitable that they will revolt at some point. So far, the Phoenix is the only clan that has outlawed the Perfect Land sect, but they are causing concern and problems throughout the lands, even in the small hamlets such as Tall Pine Village. Masashige tries to take a relatively tolerant view on them for the time being, but Hitomi wishes to root them out, to make an example of them, here and now, though Masashige is perceptive enough to recognize the threat that course of action might very well ignite the kind of widespread conflict he hopes to avoid. The teachings of the Perfect Land sect preach that paradise awaits the people in the afterlife, so long as they recite the words, and that the world is entering what they call the age of declining virtue, and collapsing anyway, so throwing themselves at the enemy's swords and spears to be rewarded in the afterlife means very little, especially since the conditions are so harsh already. And given how rough the times have been, it's not exactly that difficult to understand. Mirumoto Masashige is determined to bring the issue directly to the attention of the Dragon Clan champion. When he does manage to reach him, the Dragon Clan champion, Togashi Yokuni, his answer is cryptic as always. Masashige explains to Yokuni, the dragon and their people face many threats. The harshness of the winter, and the looming shadow of lion aggression to the south, the continuing failure of dragon births, the danger posed by the Perfect Land sect. Forces pressing in on all sides, threatening to crush the clan between them. The dragon are the mystical and the legendary. Warrior monks from the high mountains who practice the Niten style, wielding the long and short swords together in battle like dragon's fangs. Some of the warriors are covered in mystical tattoos, and many seem almost as powerful as the legendary apex predators that their clan was named after. How will the dragon respond to these threats now? The dragon are often content to watch the events of the world unfold before them from their mountain lairs, but when they do intervene, the tide can turn very quickly. To read the full story of The Rising Wave, go to the link I've provided below to the Legend of the Five Rings Fantasy Flight website. This is Kestrel Raptorial. I'll see you in the next Legend of the Five Rings core fiction video.